Caroline Clarke, welcome to the Suffolk Alumni Programme and a series of interviews. You are our episode number 4. It's great to have you with us, Caroline, a professional portfolio musician to come and speak to us today. And we're very thankful that you've come to answer some of our questions.
It was really quite early on, and that's quite surprising in a way, because when I say early on, I think we're talking 10 onwards. But I'm from a completely non-musical family.
Okay.
And the only reason I got into music or really started to enjoy it was that my parents bought a house, and the house came with a piano, came with a piece of furniture. So it was nothing more than that. And I have a sister who's 8 years older. So she was taking piano lessons, and I was just the annoying little sister who wanted to do what she wanted to do. And so it just started from there. So then Mum managed to find somebody to teach me the piano at 6. They were concerned my fingers were too small and I was too young, but I took to it like a duck to water. And then I started learning the violin at the age of 8, and it was nothing romantic about that. It wasn't like, oh, that's the instrument for me. It was literally the only place left in group violin lessons at my local C of E primary school. So
okay, because that's something that with a lot of music tuition today, especially with our whole class programs, children are given an instrument, and I think on some level a lot of those children immediately think, okay, this is my one chance at music, and if I don't like it on this instrument, then maybe I won't like music at all. And that's an important point to make there.
I did have a moment when I was sort of 14, 15, no, maybe a bit younger, 12, 13, when I thought I didn't want to play the violin. I think actually I realized it was far too difficult. and I wanted a more easy instrument. That's what I thought as a child. I wanted to play the flute.
Okay.
And so I tried that for a little bit, just borrowed a family member's instrument or something, or family friends, and I quickly returned to the violin.
Interesting.
But yeah, so I think I knew music was really important. From the age of 8, I went to the Purcell School.
Okay.
In Harrow. We used to live in northwest London, so I was a day girl. I was the youngest pupil there for 2 years. Mum and Dad were just sort of rabbit in headlights, really, not knowing what to do with this music.
Okay.
And they thought that would be a good fit. And I absolutely loved it there. And I guess that environment really made me just want to do more and more and more. If I hadn't gone to a specialist music school, perhaps it would have been a slower burn.
Okay, sure.
Just being in that environment just made me, just absorb all that excitement and that drive.
That's fascinating, because I can imagine, I mean, going to the Purcell School, there must have been inherently quite a lot of pressure involved with that as well, because you were obviously then surrounded by other wonderful musicians a lot. And I know to some people that can be quite disconcerting suddenly.
Yeah, I was very young though. I was 8, and I was also, as I said before, from a non-musical family. So I went back home and life was completely normal. We had 2 dogs, and I used to watch Neighbours, or whatever it was, and it was be out in the garden. There was no sort of pressure from Mum and Dad at all, and so I think that made it far healthier than a lot of other pupils there. I was in an amazing year group. Andrew Haveron, he is leader of the Sydney Symphony Orchestra now, and just an amazing violinist. Lucy Giel, another amazing violinist. Oscar Betterson, he's in Peabody Institute, I think, as a composer. And yeah, I was just in a remarkable...
Very talented people.
Yeah, but I left at 14.
Okay.
We moved to Suffolk, and that's where the Suffolk journey started.
Okay.
And I was absolutely livid that we were moving. My parents were coming back home, and so we moved to Southwold, and I thought it was the back end of nowhere. I was distraught and very unhappy, actually. But now here I am. I'm back home. I live in Suffolk now, and I think Mum and Dad probably did the right thing. found it very hard.
Okay.
Changing from that school to I went to St Felix in Southwold.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a completely different musical life. I was a big fish in a small pond. Is that what they say, isn't it? Yeah. So it was a complete role reversal.
Very interesting. So there was obviously not particularly one event that you remember and thinking, this is music is for me. It was, I presume, the whole experience throughout your time at Purcell.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I remember pieces. I remember Beethoven 7 being really important,
Okay.
and Vivaldi Gloria.
Mm-hmm.
They're sort of key pieces to me. If I had to do Desert Island Discs, I think they would probably be in there, but purely because it was that time. I can't think of particular events or particular concerts. I have memories of some teachers, but yes, it was just that it was such a small family. It was only 100 of us in the whole school.
Cool. So you went through the Purcell School.
Yeah.
Did you then go to music college? What after St Felix? Did you go to music college?
So I was 4 years at St Felix, and then I started Guildhall, okay. And I then, after a term, completely melted under the pressure, under the new environment, having wanted to be back in London for 4 years. Once I got there, I realised I wasn't quite ready. And I guess there was mental health issues, really, just from the pressure I'd put on myself to get to that place, and enormous. Yeah, it was a really difficult time, really, my teens. You know, I found it very hard. So actually, I dropped out. Okay. I did 1 term, and then went back home. I worked in a little Halesworth primary school for a little bit, okay. Just volunteering. The violin was ticking over, and then I reapplied for the next year, and then I started the degree course. Yeah, so it was a 4-year course. Again, I mean, I'm not blaming my parents in the slightest, but I just went along and I just got any old teacher. I didn't sort of find because nothing was online those days. It was okay. More sort of yeah, it was a completely different system. So I had one teacher and I liked her. She was lovely, but it was only once I'd sort of got into the groove of being at Guildhall and realizing actually I could be quite good, because I always thought I really wasn't good enough. And then in my final year, I chose my teacher, and that was like mind-blowing. I suddenly realized that I had this opportunity to decide who I wanted to learn with. And I say that to my pupils now, you know, you are paying me, you know, I am looking after you, and it really feels at that time when I went to learn with Detlef Hahn for 1 year. I wish it'd been more, but I had ants in my pants and I just wanted to get out of Guildhall. I should have probably done a postgraduate, but no, I wanted to get out. So after 4 years, I graduated. Well, there was another mental health blip, because once again, I put too much pressure on myself. Okay. I'm not talking major, I'm just talking what people nowadays just describe as depression or anxiety, I suppose. And very open about that. I just feel if only other people had been more open about it at the time when I was struggling, and the pressures that it is a very pressurized environment. And sure. I think everybody seemed to be dealing with it, and I definitely wasn't. So after that, after I graduated, after I got myself back on my feet, I auditioned for jobs as a violinist, orchestral violinist, outside London. I didn't think I was good enough to have a job in London. That was like the holy grail. No way was I able to be in that sort of level. And I got trials at all the places I applied to. which completely freaked me out. I just wasn't expecting that at all. And actually, I stopped those trials after a while. I realised that, you know, I didn't want to live in Cardiff. I didn't want to live in Newcastle, and Glasgow was lovely, but thanks, but no thanks. And I actually went and worked on a cruise ship for 3 months, and as a chamber musician, just playing cocktails and all that kind of jazz. And I really got myself together and realised, yes, I could do this. I could apply for jobs in London. Came back and I applied for RPO and the Royal Opera House. And I did 3 rounds of audition at the Opera House. And I just still couldn't really believe that that was happening every round, getting further and further, closer and closer, actually. And then I was offered a trial, and there was lots of contractual issues happening at that time. And it's not abnormal for a trial to take 2 years, but it's not normal either. But due to contractual issues, they were sort of putting a pause on employing new people. So yeah, I had to wait 2 years, and then I was offered a job at the Opera House, which I still can't quite believe I achieved.
Great. So regular playing in London Orchestra. Just to circle back, Caroline, because this is not something I've talked about with any of the other guests, and I think it's particularly pertinent and worth spending just an extra moment on. But could you talk to us a little bit, as much as you're comfortable, with how you, with your mental health struggles, how you managed to find your way out? You just referred to the fact that cruise ship was obviously an important time for you, which gave you a bit of your own space on your own terms with which to make some recovery, you know, whatever. Can you recall anything? Because I'm sure that some people that are watching this will also be experiencing some of that anxiety, some of that feelings of pressure. And I wonder whether, from your point of view, you could share anything that you remember that was particularly positive in helping you on your journey.
I think just grounding myself and being with my family, because they have always been that support network. Went to the doctor, I took medication. I gave myself less of a hard time. I started believing what other people were saying rather than, I think it all stemmed mainly through Guildhall not being very supportive at that time. I think music conservatoires have improved a great deal, but there just wasn't the support for those who weren't absolutely amazing. For us who chugged along, I just never felt a nurturing support network. And so I found that elsewhere, whether it was spending time with people outside of the music world or the creative world, and just, which I had always done from a very young child. As I said, you know, I always came home to normality, whatever normality is. But yeah, I think I just gave myself time. I gave myself space. I was lucky enough that, you know, I was earning enough money to get by, so I didn't have that sort of being desperate for work. I think I did a little bit of teaching. I worked for Newham Music Trust. Actually, when I first graduated, I did some work in Bury St Edmunds. I remember working there for a bit. So yeah, I just took my time, whereas rather than having that rush, that feeling of I've got to do something and it's got to be the best thing right now. No, you can take your time, actually.
Fascinating. Thank you. That's a very powerful message that you've given.
I was always interested in education, and that, I mean, it wasn't a complete blindness to that. But I mean, apparently when I graduated, my mum said to me, "Don't you think you ought to go and do a PGCE?" And I don't even remember that conversation. I was very focused on applying for auditions and things like that. I dithered a little bit with the music therapy side, but again, no, I was quite forward thinking. That performance was the only thing I could do, actually. I didn't think, again, it was this lack of confidence. Well, I've put in all these years into the violin, I've got to make this work now. So when I got my job at the Opera House, it was a dream come true. It was the perfect job for me. I'm not one for touring. So to have my own locker and the same place to go to work every day, it was the bee's knees. And it was a wonderful, wonderful time. However, I did start to not fall out of love with the music, but I fell out of love of not being able to breathe again. I was slightly sort of, gosh, you know, this is like a treadmill. It was so continuous, and there wasn't much flexibility at that time. You were full time or that was it. So I'd always been interested and had done as much education work through the Opera House as possible, from their learning and participation department. And so I was already learning that new side of music making. And eventually I met my husband, actually, who's a non-musician. And he gave me the confidence to say, actually, you don't have to do this playing malarkey forever and ever. That is not Caroline Clarke. You are more than that. You can be different. You can do. He's had a real portfolio of careers. I mean, not just, extraordinary. So he gave me this confidence to think, actually, I don't have to do this. I can do something else. Now, I did something else within music. So I went part-time at the Opera House, which was like, nobody had ever done it before. So I don't know how well that went down, but it suited me at the time, just to give, again, this space. And I'd been there, 12 years by this time. And so I went part-time, and in that time I managed to dip my toe into as many different educational settings within orchestras, so London Philharmonic, Spitalfields, Royal Philharmonic. I just did as much as possible.
Okay.
And then I decided, no, I'm still not ready to throw in the towel at the Opera House, so I took a sabbatical. So I really milked it. And in that sabbatical, just before the sabbatical, actually, I had, this is luck. I did sort of fall on my feet a bit and suddenly realised that I had a real passion for working with older people. And there was a new postgraduate course had just been devised at Roehampton in conjunction with Wigmore Hall. And I got on the course, and it was music for dementia. And we'd just got married, and we'd left London for a year. It was a bit like the cruise ship moment, but so we lived transplanted further down. Lived in Chichester for a year, and I did this course. And then after 9 months or so, I handed in my resignation, and people thought I was crazy, but yes, I miss it. I miss the camaraderie. I miss the noise in my ears. I don't listen to music at home. I never really have. I never have music on in the car. I'm much more 5 Live. I'm into sport. So I do miss that sort of being engulfed by. I was second violin, so I was right in the centre.
Okay, in the thick of it, yeah.
The orchestra, the harmony. I love that, but. No, so I then started working for Wigmore Hall on their Music for Life programme. We then moved to Suffolk, 2014, and I started working at Britten Peers Arts on their later life programme. And then I got a job. So I've always been interested in older people, but obviously I love younger people as well. So I now have a job at Norwich School where I do an enrichment scheme for all the music scholars. So I offered them, you don't get money off fees nowadays at private schools, it's more enrichment schemes. So I look up by offering masterclasses, workshops, encouraging them to go to different concerts and have they thought about this. So it's quite administrative, but it's very nurturing as well. I'm not playing as much at school, but I do play obviously quite a bit in the other side of my work when it comes to people in later life. So. Not very much.
Okay.
I think they're not for me anyway. Okay. and this is feeling like I'm giving myself a pat on the back, because yes, there might be elements of luck that a particular job was advertised at a time where I had finally got myself together, yes, but if I hadn't done all the hard work leading up to that and gone through certain amounts of angst or learning about myself more, or the determination, I think, looking back on it, my determination was quite extraordinary, and actually made me poorly at times, as I've mentioned, just this sort of absolute focus.
Mm-hmm.
So does luck come into it? The only thing, I mean, the luck that I managed to do some work at the Wigmore Hall on the dementia program, yeah, it was just, yeah, but I then went on and I worked bloomin' hard on the postgraduate course, so there's not, I don't know. I was never one of these people who was spotted by some amazing conductor, and the next thing you know it, you are, the leader of such and such. No,
no, fine.
I think it was the time when I was. Oh well, that's quite tricky actually, because I'm actually thinking of it in reverse, that I actually sacrificed my musical orchestral career.
Yeah.
Because I realised that by continuing with that, I wouldn't have the family life that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, it was a reverse sacrifice. I sacrificed the music side
for your personal career.
For my personal growth. What did I sacrifice growing up? Not very much.
I suppose Purcell got you into a really good routine of doing practice, being soaked in. Oh, right, okay. Fair enough.
I don't know. I don't think I really learnt how to practice until I was about 20.
Okay.
And when I'm teaching now, I really try and help pupils learn how to practice, because so much of it is a waste of time. It's just noodling around and not really concentrating. And you're like, well, I did an hour and a half, and I'm like, really, so I don't think, I think I was quite I probably did practice reasonably well, but it wasn't until much later, maybe third year of Guildhall, where I actually understood
what good practice looks like.
What that commitment was,
and how it feels as well, because it's exhausting, isn't it? I mean, good practice is mentally exhausting.
I was really nerdy, and I'm much more of a morning person, and I used to get up and go into the Guildhall, so it was about an hour's journey, because you didn't live centrally. Hour's journey, and I used to get out the shower and not dry my hair, and I'd run to the bus and my hair would freeze because it was so cold. I had long hair, and I'd go in and do 2 hours of just technique every day. But then I'd always finished by about 5:30. I should never have gone into the job that I went into, because evening stuff, my brain doesn't seem to be so active at that time. So, I always did my practice, the technical stuff early, and then the rest of the day was much more of the creative side of things.
Okay, interesting. So,
patience.
Okay.
I think my work in the community now, I feel, I hope anyway, that I have a sense of kindness, and I really, really care for people. And yesterday I did a quartet gig, and I was like, oh God, I've got to go and play Bach double as a string quartet in somebody's home. And then it turned out it was for this old lady who hasn't been able to go to any concerts due to ill health. And I absolutely loved it. And I loved it because of the connection you can make with people. And I guess that was the main pivotal moment for me leaving the Opera House, actually, is that I was playing for 2,200 people every evening, but there wasn't that connection. And I think my personal trait is that I need those personal connections. And I think that's what I'm good at, is making somebody feel nurtured, whether that is through conversation or through music. And luckily, with the work I do with Britten Peers and Wigmore Hall and in Norwich School, I can do both. Whereas previously, with just the performance side, I was struggling to feel that.
Yeah, I can understand, and it explains, if you feel that's one of your strongest skills, that explains why you've gradually gravitated more and more to do that kind of work.
Yes.
So
talk to as many people as possible. See, I didn't have that opportunity. Like I said, it was just sort of going to the Guildhall, going to wherever, but I didn't understand the system. I didn't, so get as much guidance as possible. Pick a good teacher, somebody that's a good fit for you. Work hard. Don't be, you are going to have to work really hard. You are, my husband always says we're like elite sports people, and I always laugh, but actually he's quite true. You know, we have to really take care of ourselves and invest in this. It's not going to come easy, and if that isn't for you, that is fine. You know, I don't go down that path and not feel that you can't divert somewhere else. That's the other thing. I'm keep your options open. I used to hate it when people said that to me, but it's true.
It's the truth.
It's so true. And you might think of doing one thing, and that is your absolute goal. I have a pupil right now who her goal was musical theatre, but her body, she has just very, I don't actually know what the issue is, but she's saying, you know what, I'm going to go and do psychology. And I am so proud of her. I'm so proud that she can move and change and adapt. And so, yes, I would say adapt. Be willing to change, keep your eyes open, talk. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Take your time, but work hard. Oh, my husband, he still morphs into different things on a daily basis. You know, he's like, what about this? You know, I just find that extraordinary. I'm very sort of, still find it difficult to change direction very easily. My dad and my mum, and my sister and my brother, really. Musically, oh gosh, I haven't got a clue. They doesn't really bother me. No, I think there were some serious ups and downs.
Okay.
Music, yes, the actual listening to music or being part of an ensemble, yes, even if we were having a really bad day, just playing with somebody, again, it's the connection element. With somebody, yes, that could lift me. But sometimes when you're having those moments of self-doubt and you're sitting in that practice room and you're thinking, oh, I just couldn't give a monkey's about Beethoven's Spring Sonata. It just isn't doing it for me. Yeah, it's not so much the it's not the music, it's the collaboration for me, I think. So that's never waned, that intense, amazing moment of when you work with somebody, like yesterday, you know, playing in a string quartet. We hadn't rehearsed, you know, it was a gig, you know, you turn up, but being able to create such a special moment for those 5 people in their living room, yeah, that doesn't wane, that doesn't disappear, it changes. And I was far freer yesterday with my performance than I would have been when I was 20 something, but technically I was probably better when I was 20 something, but now I've got the age, basically, experience.
Maturity.
Maturity, that's the word. And just a bit of perspective. I really don't mind mistakes. I say that a lot to my pupils as well. It's not the mistakes. As long as you play with intent and those connections, and then everything's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I have 2 children, 6-year-old twins. They're just 6. Ask me the question again, because I was thinking.
What do you? That's fine. It's fine. Well, I mean, that's logical. I also have a 6-year-old daughter, and when I talk about future plans, obviously she is the front, left, and centre. Yeah.
But I was going to put something musical in there, and I can't remember what the question was. But basically, what are my aspirations?
Aspirations, yeah. What are your
so I would love them to have a love of music. I'm in slight denial that they are quite talented. They don't have lessons in any shape or form. They tinkle around on the piano like I did. But I just want them to have that love without any of the pressure. Even though I said there was no pressure, it was my own pressure. I just want them to have, that's an aspiration, that I want them to really enjoy it. Like I do now. I really enjoy it, but it's taken a jolly long while and learning process to get there.
Sure. Great. Caroline Clarke, it has been lovely to talk to you. Thank you for taking the time to join us. We're very proud that you are a member of the SYO Alumni. And thank you for being so open and honest in talking about some of these topics. I'm sure there'll be a lot of students out there who really appreciate hearing it from you. So thank you again.
Oh, no, thank you, Ben. It's been great fun, actually, quite revealing at times.